What if your government told you that owning gold was a crime? Not smuggling, not stealing, just owning it. What if the savings you trusted, the metal your grandparents believed in, had to be surrendered or else? This is not a rumor. This is not a theory. In 1933, the United States of America made it illegal for its own citizens to own gold, and almost no one talks about it. This is the story of how a nation in crisis changed the meaning of money forever. Before 1933, money in America was simple. Dollars weren't just paper, they were promises. Every U.S. dollar could be exchanged for real, physical gold. Gold coins filled pockets. Gold certificates sat in bank vaults. If you didn't trust a bank, you trusted gold. It was stability. It was security. It was freedom. But that system had a weakness. It only worked as long as people believed everything was fine.
In 1929, that belief collapsed. The stock market crashed. Banks failed by the thousands. Jobs disappeared overnight. People panicked. And when Americans panic, they don't trust paper. They demand gold. Millions rushed to banks, trying to convert dollars into something real. But banks didn't have enough. Gold started vanishing from the system, and that terrified the government. Because without gold, the dollar could not survive. In 1933, America turned to a new leader, Franklin D. Roosevelt. He inherited a nation on the edge, unemployment soaring, banks collapsing, confidence gone. Roosevelt believed the old rules were killing the economy. He needed control. Control over banks, control over money, and most importantly, control over gold. On April 5, 1933, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 6102. It changed everything. American citizens were ordered to surrender their gold to the federal government. Coins, bars, certificates. Almost all private gold ownership became illegal. In exchange, the government paid $20.67 per ounce. Refusal meant fines or prison. Gold, once a symbol of safety, had become a crime. And this was only the beginning. Most Americans complied. Some hid their gold. Some trusted the government. Some had no choice. But what almost no one realized was what would happen after the gold was gone. Because once the people surrendered it, the rules changed again. By the summer of 1933, most of America's gold was no longer in private hands. It sat behind steel doors, inside federal vaults. The public believed the crisis was over. Banks reopened, markets calmed. Life slowly moved forward. But behind the scenes, the government was preparing its next move. A move that would quietly rewrite the value of money. In January 1934, the United States government made a historic decision. The price of gold was changed. Not by markets, not by demand, but by law. Gold was revalued from $20.67 an ounce to $35 an ounce. Overnight. That single decision reduced the value of the dollar by nearly 40%. And here's the part most history books gloss over. The government made this move after collecting gold from the public. The people had sold low. The government repriced high. So who benefited? The federal government. With gold now worth more, the U.S. Treasury suddenly had greater financial power, more flexibility, more control. Debt became easier to manage. Spending became possible again. But for ordinary Americans,
Their savings lost purchasing power. The gold they once owned, the gold they were forced to surrender, was now far more valuable, legally untouchable, financially out of reach. It was a turning point, not just for gold, but for trust. America didn't just change the price of gold, it changed the system. Money was no longer something you could always exchange for metal. It became something else, a promise backed by government authority. This moment laid the foundation for modern fiat currency, money powered by confidence, policy, and control. The gold standard still existed, but its grip on everyday Americans was gone. The government said it was necessary. Many historians agree it helped stabilize the economy. But one question never disappeared. If gold could be taken once, could it happen again? And if not gold, then what? For decades after the ban, gold remained off-limits to everyday Americans. The economy recovered. America grew stronger. The dollar became global. But gold stayed in government hands. It wasn't until 1974, more than 40 years later, that Americans were once again allowed to own gold freely. By then, the world had changed. Money had changed. And the gold standard was already fading away. In 1971, President Richard Nixon made another historic decision. The U.S. dollar was officially detached from gold. No more convertibility, no more metal backing. From that moment on, the dollar became pure fiat currency. Its value depended on trust, in institutions, in policy, and in the strength of the nation itself. Gold was no longer money. It became something else. A hedge, a symbol, a reminder. The gold ban of 1933 was not about punishment. It was about survival. A government under pressure used extraordinary powers to stabilize a collapsing system. And in many ways, it worked. But it also revealed a deeper truth. In moments of crisis, the rules of money can change. Assets can be redefined. Ownership can be limited. Certainty can disappear. Gold didn't fail. The system around it did. Today, the world debates new forms of money, digital assets, cryptocurrencies, alternative stores of value. History doesn't repeat exactly, but it often rhymes. The gold ban reminds us that no financial system is permanent, and that trust, not metal, not code, is the real foundation of money. In 1933, Americans learned that even gold could be taken off the table, not because it lost value, but because it had too much. The question is no longer whether gold will be banned again. The real question is, do we understand the system we depend on? Because money is not just currency, it is confidence, and confidence is fragile. This video is created for educational and historical purposes only. If you found this story valuable, like the video. It helps more people discover real financial history. Share it with someone who believes money has always worked the same way.